let's see what cars we can get in and what races we're going to be doing.
Ah, spring. The season of new life and new beginnings. Oh, and new championships, of course.
Naturally. So we can get in the Ferrari 365 GTB/4, very powerful car, more than 400 horsepower from its V12 engine. Got a pair of Aston Martins from the James Bond edition car pack that came out a while ago. The DBS, which I adore, and the DB5, which I also quite adore, but in all honesty it's a DBS that I prefer out of the two. I know that's not a popular opinion, considering the DBS was only featured in one James Bond film in terms of it being driven by Bond himself, and then featured in Diamonds Are Forever in the background of a shot. But obviously the DB5 has been in several films. But yeah, being the James Bond edition, it's not the specifically the standard car. It's a little bit quicker and a little bit better in terms of handling, as it naturally would be, being an upgraded version for a Spy. And then we've got the Lamborghini Miura P400, another really rather good supercar really. Then the Porsche 911 Carrera RS, and then the Shelby Cobra 427. 427 there being the most powerful car on here that we get to choose from. But since the DBS is my favourite of the bunch, I'm going to get in this one first. So yeah, it's pretty much the British equivalent to a muscle car from America. Doesn't have a V8, but it does have a 4-litre inline 6 engine, 325 horsepower, only weighs 3,501 pounds, and pretty damn good acceleration, speed, handling and braking. So yeah, let's see what it can do in comparison to the competition on this race, and then we'll get on to the second one and go for something even more exotic, I imagine. But yeah, love this car. It's a shame it only got to appear once in motion and actually being used. Because yeah, like I said, it's easily my favourite Aston Martin that's been used in the James Bond series. But I do love the fact that we have several Bond cars to choose from on this game now. Even the 80s one from The Living Daylights, which we've never had before. Which again is a stupendously good car. In terms of a speed and acceleration kind of aspect, it's definitely better than this, but I just love the simplicity and the looks and the class that this has going on with it. But regardless, we're all here to race, so let's see what we can do in comparison to these lots. So we've got a Ferrari up front. E-Type, Porsche, so that's really good top speed as well, more than 170 miles an hour, and it's got 50-50 weight distribution as well, so handling is pretty much spot on. There's practically nothing about this car that I would ever change if I bought one. There's certainly very little in the way to complain about. Alongside another classic British car, the Jaguar E-Type. Never been the biggest of fans of the E-Type, but especially not in terms of the coupe version that we have on this game, that we've had on every Forza game in fact. Just not a fan of the coupe's looks. It seems to be a recurring problem with Forza games, is that a lot of vehicles that look great in their convertible version only have the hardtop version on these games. It's the same with the Z3M or the Z4M. It's well, in terms of the older Z4 especially, it's always the hardtop version for some reason. Don't know whether it's a part of the license agreement to have the hardtop version over the convertible version, just in case you roll over in the game or whatever, but it is a little annoying. So yeah, the convertibles are definitely the better looking versions. But regardless, we have a massive lead over the rest of the leaderboard there. How far ahead are we? Or were we? Damn, nearly 4 seconds ahead of the E-Type. plenty ahead of the 911, the another E-Type and the Ferrari 250 GT. Surprised the 250 GT is as far back as it is, because even though it is an older car than this, it is really rather powerful and really rather lightweight as well, so yeah, I am surprised by that. But nonetheless, I'm really glad that my favourite car of the bunch that we got to choose from is also our winner. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get on to the second race. So the DBS was mightily impressive, so let's go for something a little bit more exotic. I think we'll go for the Miura. I really do rather like the 365, but I find the suspension to be quite soft and wallowy. And yeah, even though it's got more power and torque than the Miura, it weighs a lot more. So yeah, I don't think people quite realise how light the Miura was back in the day. So yeah, it's got less in the way of weight, better handling, better braking, not quite as good at its acceleration or top speed, but this is a circuit race, so I think this would be beneficial more so than the Ferrari, which would be better on a point-to-point maybe, but for a circuit race I think the Miura here will be better. And at least, I'm not sure if it is actually simulated, but at least if on a circuit race we're not going to have to deal with the front end getting all light like it does in real life, because the fuel tank is over the front wheels, and obviously the more fuel you use, the less weight you're going to have, and therefore the front becomes lighter, so yeah, at least we won't have to deal with that. And this is the first mid-engine supercar as well, so a lot of pedigree with this in terms of, well, a lot of you know, respect towards this car for everything that it did back in the day. Although they were inspired by the Mini to put it, you know, longitudinally rather than, you know, lengthways, to make it more compact. So it could be a mid-engine car. Otherwise you would never have fitted the V12 in this otherwise. British versus the Italians. Although, like I predicted in the previous race, that 250 is ludicrously quick in straight line speed. It's got plenty of power. Not as much power as this, but because it weighs so little, it's a little rocket. This doesn't have the best gearbox ever, to be honest. It sure does rev, and yeah. Once it gets going, it's certainly got plenty of speed and acceleration on the go. You can tell this is typically Lamborghini because there's always something about it in terms of everyday driving that is made more difficult because it doesn't have something. It's got no wing mirrors, for instance, so I imagine driving one of these in this form nowadays would be quite stressful, to be honest, because it's got a massively expensive car and the only wing mirror you've got is the rear view mirror, which I don't even know that useful either with those louvers on the rear window, so yeah, visibility is not the best. Which would also be for the case for the Countach as well, but that would replace this. Sure, it had wing mirrors, but it's like looking for a letterbox for the rear window. Keeping ahead of the E-Type, which I'm surprised is as quick as it is, to be honest, because it's not got the most amount of power and does have quite an ancient design underneath it. All of the futuristic, or at least more modern looks than most cars from the time. But it's never going to be able to live with 350 horsepower down the straight. not as quite as convincing win as the DBS there, but that's probably because this Miura is a little bit more tricky to drive. But first place is first place regardless, and yeah, we also get the fastest lap, and well, more importantly, 20 extra points, giving us the 40 points so far. So 12 points ahead of the E-Type, 14 points ahead of the Ferrari 250 GT, 19 points ahead of another E-Type, and 20 points ahead of my beloved DBS. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get on to the third and final race. So another win there thanks to the Miura, so I think we'll go for something from a different country, so we're going to exclude the Ferrari. We've already had an Aston Martin, so we've got a choice between the German Porsche 911 Carrera RS and the American Shelby Cobra 427 SC, which, yeah, undoubtedly has more power, but doesn't have the stats to really back it up, to be honest. As you can see, acceleration on the Porsche is better, probably because, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Maybe its gearing is better because it weighs more than the Shelby and has less power by more than twice, and less torque by more than twice as well. So not quite sure why the Porsche is better. Maybe it's off the line acceleration because it, you know, doesn't have so much power to spin the wheels, and yet also has a rear engine pushing down on those rear wheels as well. No surprise that the handling is better because, yeah, this is still a muscle car at the end of the day. But yeah, the speed on this is better. I'm going to go for the Cobra. It's one that we've never used before, I don't think, and yeah, we don't see it often enough really being used at all, really, so yeah, let's give it a shot. So yeah, based on a British chassis sports car, but with American firepower. Let's see what the combination of those two can do. I find it hard to believe that this is massively slower than a 911 in terms of acceleration, though, to be honest. Or I do believe that it won't be as good in terms of handling, because yeah, the suspension on this is quite soft. It's dealing with way more in terms of speed and acceleration. Bad handling car by any means, especially considering you're putting the same kind of power in this as you were in, say, a Dodge Charger or a Dodge Challenger, and yet it weighs well over £1,000 less than either of those. So it's quite a task to keep this on the road, really. Certainly doesn't have the braking. Does sound good though. Well, the likelihood of you ever seeing a real one of these on the road is, or on a road like this, for instance, is next to nil, because yeah, they're so expensive. But you will see plenty of replicas around. Especially considering it's not a massively complicated body to recreate, and at the end of the day it's just a big V8 with rear wheel drive and not much else, so being overtaken by the minute Alfa Romeo there. So looking good for us in the American Shelby. Certainly have the straight line speed. Handling that is predictably not that great. Coming through Italians and British. Can the DB5 hold off the Shelby? Trying his best. Oh, he got knocked into the wall by me by accident. I didn't give him the biggest of nudges, it was just a scrape. So there we go, sealed a win, but it was a difficult one to get there because yeah, the handling and braking on the Shelby is not all that great. And despite being at the top of the of B class that we're using cars from, yeah, the handling and braking isn't all that great. Certainly not enough to compensate for the lack of weight and the huge amount of firepower and torque that it's got going on. But regardless, we did win, and yeah, that means we've got 60 points overall, the full amount of points, beating the DB5 James Bond edition by 16 points. The Alfa Romeo GTA, which up until now wasn't really in the top 5, and yet it's come out of nowhere, but it's still 20 points behind us, and both E-Types are 31 and 32 points respectively behind as well. So yeah, well, there we go, a really fun championship. I really do like my classics more than my modern cars, so I guess that's no real surprise on my part, but at the end of the day you do get a really expensive Bentley 8 litre for your trouble of doing the championship. So yeah, it's a reward to do the championship, but it's also rewarding to do the championship itself, so it's all good really. But nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.